I did it. I moved back in with my parents. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video and if you'd like to see more related content. Today I wanted to talk about my experience with moving back into my parents' house, or I guess my house now because I live here, and just give you a little more detail as to why I even decided to do this, because I've mentioned it a couple of times on my channel, but I don't think I really went into the details of how this came to be. The main reason why I did this is so that I could pay off my debt faster. My number one goal right now is to pay off my debt and become debt-free and financially stable. I am not debt-free or financially stable right now, but I simply make too much money for me to be drowning in debt at 24. Part of me moving back in with my parents is so that I could save money on housing costs. I was paying over $1,300 a month in rent, pet fees, and then on top of that, I had to pay like $200 a month in utilities. Renting served its purpose for a little while, but I just hated the feeling of wasting that money when it could be going towards my loan so that I could reach a point in my life where I could eventually buy my own house or invest money into my retirement. I could either increase my income, get another job, or move out. You know, I've gotten raises, I've had numerous side hustles, and the last thing I hadn't tried was simply to move back in with my parents, which if you had asked me this a year ago, I would have shut that idea completely down and we would not be here today. It's funny how things change. But that was a year ago. A few months later, even before the pandemic became a pandemic, I actually redid the calculation of how much I would save if I A, moved into an apartment with a roommate, or B, moved back in with my parents and just did the long hour-and-a-half commute one way every day. And although I didn't love the idea of spending almost 4 hours in a car every day and living with my parents again, I will save, at my current salary, 2 years of my life being in debt. If I didn't move back in with my parents, I would be in debt for 4 more years, and the thought of that is absolutely crippling to me. These 2 years, I feel like, might actually drag by so slowly. Not because I'm living here, but because I just hate the feeling of being in debt and, you know, as Dave Ramsey says, being a slave to your lender. I don't want my money going to someone else. I want my money to go to myself for once, and that's just not gonna happen for another 2 years at the rate that I'm paying it off. But of course, this is my best option right now, and I am fully committed. So when the idea creeped back into my head in February, I told my parents about it, kind of not really jokingly, because once I saw how much I would be saving, by the time that seed was planted in my head with the cost savings, it started becoming a very serious decision for me within the next day. And so I told my parents about it, and they thought I was joking. They thought I was just being ridiculous. There's no way I can drive that much every day and not be completely exhausted. But you know, being the wonderful immigrant parents that they are, I immigrated with them too, so this is probably gonna be me in the future. They started to become very comfortable with the idea of me living with them very quickly. So once I pointed it out, they started thinking of the logistics of me actually doing this. Oh, I guess we could get rid of this couch so we could fit your furniture in it because it's newer. Your room is still intact. Like, no problem. So it didn't take too much convincing for them to be on board with this. I'm in a position where my parents would like me to be here and would not mind me living here rent-free and are just completely supportive of my financial endeavors. And so since March, I had actually started planning the move. I started bringing like these little things that maybe I just didn't use in my apartment and started bringing them over. I also did a huge purge of everything that I owned, started donating things and throwing stuff out that I didn't think other people would have a use for. So I started preparing pretty early. From the beginning, I was fully prepared to commute every day. This is not something that I thought about like in the last few months before I started working from home for the most part. Having all of that happen after I made that decision almost solidified my decision to do this. Since I was doing the baby steps, I had $1,000 in savings back in March when everything crazy started going on. The only other savings I had was saving so that I could pay off my 0% APR credit card by the time that introductory promotion was over in July. So I really didn't want to have to use that money if I lost my job and had to break my lease or finish paying my lease through December. So if I didn't have that money and I just have the $1,000 of emergency savings, which everyone agrees is very low. Now, when a pandemic hits, you have to start stockpiling cash. And that's what I did. I started door dashing again. I started postmating, wrote a bunch of articles for my Upwork client. Now, becoming more wary of the risk that I had by having this months-long lease in a pandemic, I just did not like that feeling. So when eventually I was able to keep my job, I felt very valued as an employee, but I also knew that if this were to happen again, I don't know if I would have the resources to make it. So definitely moving back in with my parents, definitely trying to pay off my debt as fast as I can. And so I moved all my stuff. Every time I visited back into my parents' house, I prepared for moving to an extent. If you want to check out my moving costs video and my December budget video. And there are so many pros to moving back to New Jersey. I see my parents more often, which some people may not love that, but I love that. I love my parents. And I'm closer to so many more of my friends, which I just didn't have in Pennsylvania. I kind of just lived in the suburbs. I didn't really know that many people there. So not the best location for like a 24-year-old introvert, or maybe it was just an ideal location, but I just wasn't challenged to push my social boundaries. I never left my apartment because I didn't want to spend money. I never really socialized with people because I didn't have friends around me. You know, if it weren't in the context of a worldwide health crisis, sheltering in place is really not new to me. Another pro about living here is that now it's easier for me to leave Percy with my parents if I ever have to go to a customer site far away, because I don't want to leave him alone all day, and boarding can definitely get expensive. Since so many things have changed about the way people work in this past year, I actually have been working from home more often than I've had to go into the office. So it's worked out pretty well in the past few months because I didn't necessarily have to do that commute. Of course, I'm open to commuting, it's my job, but it's not as often as I had expected it to be, which is a huge plus, especially when I take into account the tolls that I might take and the gas that I would spend on these trips. Now, for the move, I did mention in the moving costs video what it took for me to prepare for this. Let me tell you, I thought I was prepared. The two movers that I had decided not to hire anymore, I had to rehire because my dad hurt his back, so he couldn't help with like lifting stuff even though there wasn't too much furniture left. I just hired a crew to move the furniture in, and honestly, best decision. I'm happy with it. I don't mind spending the money. I have beef with U-Haul right now. I haven't made a complaint, but I would like to vent a little bit. I made my reservation to pick up the truck 10 minutes from where I lived in Pennsylvania, 2 days before my move. I get an email from U-Haul saying that my pickup location has changed to a location 1 hour away from my apartment. Now, I like getting things done early, so I had booked the loading movers to come in at 10 a.m. In my head, I would have had the truck by 8. That was not what happened. My parents and I ended up having to sleep over my apartment the night before and then drive an hour to the new truck pickup location at like 7 a.m. Bring it back 1 hour to my apartment and then wait until the movers showed up. And I'm just happy I got it because first of all, I did the mobile pickup. Thank God we went there while there was someone working there. But the person working there didn't put the truck keys in the deposit box where I was supposed to put in a code and open it and find keys. The keys weren't there. She had to give them to me personally. So if she hadn't been there, I would not have had truck keys. That's like the one major hiccup that kind of caused a huge inconvenience. Other than that, the movers showed up to load everything. They were so fast. They moved everything in 20 minutes. It would have taken my parents and I like 3 hours to do it ourselves. They're just professionals. You can't beat professionals. It was packed so well. We drove the truck back to my parents' house. Then the next set of movers came an hour afterwards, so we had like a bit of time to relax. And then they came in, brought the furniture up the stairs, brought it to another room downstairs. No problem. Done in 20 minutes. They got their tips. They deserved it. It was so great to have movers. I am never not hiring movers again. Even though my parents and I technically didn't do any hard manual labor on that day, we were so exhausted, and it's because of all of the stress that went into like just planning this and having a plan deviate. And then yesterday my parents and I went back to my apartment and they helped me clean the entire apartment. I'm so thankful for them. They are the best parents ever. I realize not a lot of people have parents who would clean their apartment with them, but I was able to make that apartment squeaky clean, even cleaner than it was when I first moved into it. Shout out to my spiders, shout out to my ants. If you watched one of my grocery hauls, you'll actually be able to see that I taped an area on my windowsill where the ants come in because they haven't been able to stop it. So I've had to deal with ants and spiders for the past 2 years. I am now immune to them. One more thing that I did not mention in my moving cost video, do not forget to update the address on your Amazon account. Thanks for listening to my little vent sesh. Please comment below any experiences you've had with moving or living with your parents, especially when you're in your 20s. And of course, don't forget to like and share my videos and subscribe to my channel for more related content.
Also, this is very important. What is your favorite song on Evermore? Mine is Gold Rush.